Two more American police officers have been injured by gunfire in South Los Angeles, indicating a surge in rage against the police. At the same time, an American Justice Department report has revealed a damning indictment of the Ferguson Police Department, condemning it as a broken and racially biased system. Across the country, protests have also condemned US police departments for their severely racially biased practices. Yet the US Attorney General seems chaotically inconsistent, with one report condemning systematic police racism and another not condemning police for killing unarmed black teenager Michael Brown. In fact, political statements, reactionary news presenters and the police themselves have all been blamed for provoking anger amongst both black and white Americans. It's got so bad, even President Obama has conceded US police have been oppressive and objectionable. So is the US police force in chaos? Why are there so many institutionally racist US police departments? And who is responsible for US police racism? These are the simple questions we sought to answer. And we began with those two police officers shot in Los Angeles and asked the question, why is there so much anger towards American police officers? Here's what the American public thought.
Well, this country's history of brutality toward authority figures is pretty deep for so many different reasons, but right now it seems to be mostly racially inflamed.
I think that sometimes the police officers can take it a little bit too far with their actions, and they use the power that they have to sometimes intimidate and bully people. And in no way do I think that that represents all police officers. I think most police officers actually do a wonderful job and are good people. I just think that sometimes the actions of a few can kind of tarnish the reputation of a whole group.
Because the police are too brutal and there's too much brutality. People are just getting even. They're sick and tired of everything that's happening.
Cops can't be trusted. The public don't feel safe. They killed Eric Garner. They beat Rodney King. And you know, many of them got away because, you know, the blue wall of silence, or the city's going to give them good lawyers so they don't second guess themselves to pull their firearms, because they'd rather a civilian get killed than a cop get killed, because it's all about money.
People feel, especially black people, I can say feel like they're not welcome. They feel like they're not safe. These people are supposed to be protecting them. And you go outside into your own community and you can't live, you can't breathe, you don't feel at ease.
I really don't understand it myself. As an Irishman, I find it amazing, the amount of abuse that the police seem to get in the media. And I feel that that fuels a lot of anger in society here. But fundamentally, I think the core of the problem is that there's too much access to guns in America. And until that's addressed, more situations like this are going to occur.
I think because of the history of, and what we've been seeing is the profiling, and there's a lot of anger out there, and it's certainly not a way to deal with it or express how you feel, and it's just really sad that there are so many guns out there.
With the mounting level of shooting injuries suffered by US police officers, we asked our experts to analyse where there is so much growing anger against the American police.
The reason why there is so much anger towards the police in the United States at the moment, it's not a new phenomenon. This is something that's been going on for years and years and years and years, you know? And the way the police have been used in the United States to police communities of color and what they call minority communities, the police have always been basically an occupying army, you know? So the way they would relate to black people was always with a lot of violence, a lot of aggression, and would always treat them as criminals anyway. So now all we're getting is what's the word? It's the reaction to years and years of police brutality. It's understandable. I'm not condoning violence against police or citizens. You know, that's not what I'm about. However, I understand, you know, where it would be coming from.
I think there's anger towards USA police officers at the moment because people are feeling very angry and hurt and frustrated that so many young black men in particular, people of colour, you know, men and women, older and younger, are dying at the hands of the police, are being shot rather than being questioned or arrested and to go through the judicial system. They're being shot dead and not given a chance to even speak or have a chance at putting their story across. And people are feeling like this is, you know, institutional racism, that they're being targeted, and I believe they are being targeted, and they're upset and they're hurt. So I'm not saying I condone the you know, attack of police officers or attack of anybody, but I can understand the frustration and anger that people are feeling right now.
The Justice Department has issued a scathing report on the Ferguson Police Department, describing it as broken and a racially biased system. Why are so many US police departments racially biased? We put that question to the public.
Well, it goes back to institutional racism. I don't think it's only the police that is necessarily racist. There's a bunch of different institutions in this country that might be racist in many different ways.
I don't know if they are. I really don't think they are. I mean, you're going to get all sorts of people in every walk of life. You know, if you're going to get racists in the police department, you're going to get racists in the church, you're going to get racists in retail. You know, it is what it is. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in. But again, I think it's very unfair to cast all the police with one brush. It's awful.
Well, I think it's the way the deck is stacked. That when you have a society where a Census Bureau would tell you that 78% of the population is of color, and you have less than 2% of the law enforcement being of color, that's a total imbalance right there. And that people might start feeling more comfortable if they could physically and socially relate to the officers, because the officers are not bad guys, but they can be put in tough situations. Some people are bad people, some aren't. It goes both ways.
Well, I think that in the United States today, a lot of people believe that racism is not really a problem anymore when it still is. And just like President Obama has said in the past, it's something that we do need to sit down and talk about. And because it's a conversation that many Americans still need to have, I think that, you know, people still have racist attitudes and racist beliefs, even though they say they might not. There's a thing here that I studied when I went to grad school called white privilege, and it's really fascinating. So if anybody watching has time, I'd encourage them to look that information up, because a lot of people don't realize, as white Americans, they don't realize, you know, the privileges that are afforded to them just by being white.
Because it's run by a lot of white people.
I think that, you know, for police officers, they only see the worst in people for the most part throughout their day as they're doing their job. And unfortunately, they try to, you know, put a blanket over all African Americans, just like they do with police officers. Not all police officers are out to kill African American young men. And so, yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation that I wish, you know, that it will come to an end soon, because I think it's all ignorance on both parts.
We sought guidance from our experts about the reasons behind why such a large number of US police departments seem to act in a racist way.
You have to look at the American police within the context of the American society. America is a country that is being founded upon a racial bias. You know, in what they call the Bill of Rights, it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal. But obviously, in the United States, all men aren't equal at all. You're equal maybe if you're white, but if you're black, that equality that they talk about, the American dream that they talk about, is more of an American nightmare. And so, put in that context, the police are only going to be a reflection of the wider society anyway. The police are what is known as the repressive state apparatus, and their job is to maintain the status quo as it is. It's not to deliver justice, it's to maintain the status quo. So when people are you know, acting really surprised, that there has been these reports that have been scathing of the Ferguson Police Department. Don't be surprised. That's what America's all about. Racialism is as American as apple pie.
Well, there's systemic race discrimination in the police force in America, as there is here in the UK. It's a situation of institutional racism, and we've had the same situation here in the UK with the Stephen Lawrence inquiry, recommendations not carried out, and still disproportionate stop and search and targeting of black and Muslim young men in the UK. And we're seeing the same thing happen in the USA, and a lot of it is historical, and it's about power. Black people don't have the power in America. The white-run institutions do.
The US Attorney General has issued two apparently contradictory reports. One condemns the police for systematic racism against black people. The other one fails to condemn the police for the killing of unarmed black teenager Michael Brown. Is the US police force in chaos? We asked the public.
If I understand correctly, that second report referred only to the policeman who was deemed responsible for shooting the fatal bullet, not the force in and of itself. So there were two different issues. One was a particular individual, and one was the force as a unit, its historical treatment of its community, particularly the minority community. So I don't think that those two reports are incompatible.
Probably it is. Nobody really knows why the officers shot the people, but I think these officers with lack of education, they're given guns and not the proper training, and consequently a lot of stuff is happening.
Yes, because you do have to put because people aren't in this day and age going to be overtly I hate black people and I want to kill them. So you do have to put on a facade of yes, there is equality, but still not perpetuate equality. So yes, there's chaos.
I don't know if I would use the word chaos. That's a very strong word, but there is a it's uneven. It's also again, things go on for so long sometimes that people forget how to undo them.
I don't know if the US police force is in chaos. I think, society and the media need to look at themselves and say, well, hold on a second. The police are there to kind of do a job. They're there to kind of keep people in line. And I suppose if there's a little bit more respect shown on both sides, I think we'd be living in an awful lot better society than we are.
Well, in some sense, yes, because there's so much denial, and even the people above that continue to protect things that go wrong. That doesn't help anybody. I myself have lost 2 family members to law enforcement, and I'm white.
2 contradictory reports, 2 conflicting conclusions, one condemning systematic police racism, the other failing to condemn the police for the killing of an unarmed black teenager. We asked our experts what they make of the claim that the US police force is in chaos.
No, the US police force is not in chaos. The US is in chaos. And anything that's connected to the state is going to be, by nature, chaos, by design. What we have to understand is that the relationship that exists between the police, the right wing, the racist right wing of America, and the black community is something that has been going on for many, many, many years. When the officer, Wilson, when he was facing possible charges for shooting Michael Brown, the demonstrators, the white demonstrators who came out supporting the police, some of them had been exposed as being members of the KKK. The KKK supporting the police. This came out in 2014, but this is nothing new. You can go back to the 1950s, and before that, the KKK and the local police, the sheriff's department, were like this. They worked together. So it's nothing new. So it's not, people shouldn't be surprised as to what's coming out.
Well, it sounds like the US police force are very confused. But I don't think they are confused. I think they know that there's institutional racism there, that they have a problem and that they need to address that problem. The state knows that that problem needs to be addressed. The people on the receiving end needs to see those issues addressed, because you can't say on one hand we have a problem, there's institutional racism, we need to sort it out, and then each time a young black man is killed, like the case of Michael Brown, say, well, actually on this occasion we don't think we did anything wrong, and actually the shooting and killing of them was justified. It can't be justified every time when there's institutional racism. There's a pattern happening here, and that pattern tells us that there's a problem and the disproportionate targeting of black people.
Amazingly, US police arrest black Americans 45 times more frequently than white Americans, despite similar levels of crime from both ethnic groups. Is this compelling evidence of police prejudice? We put that to the public.
I think even the statistics are staggered to us, that again, you can't eliminate the problems of being a human being in this country. The opportunities are not the same for everybody. That's just not true. Freedom, people pay a high price for it, but it isn't equal.
I mean, yeah, that statistic speaks for itself, but then again, statistics are not necessarily facts. They need to be they need to be analyzed and analyzed, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it is irrefutable evidence, meaning it can't be argued because it's a fact. Yeah, if that's the case, that whites and blacks are committing the same crimes the same amount of times, and, there's nothing being done about it, then yeah, it is racism.
I'd say yes. That's the only answer to that. There's definitely racial prejudice within the police system as far as who actually gets arrested, who gets charged with crimes, who gets indicted. Yes, there is racial prejudice.
The fact that US police arrest 45 times more black Americans than white Americans does require an explanation. We asked our experts to give their assessment of this shocking statistic.
America is a racial society. It's built upon racial prejudice. We have to understand that from its inception, America practiced racial discrimination. They gave rights to white people, whilst at the same time depriving black people of the rights. The American dream is built upon the black man's nightmare. That's how America exists. So 200 years, 300 years down the line, unless there is a structural overhaul in how American society views itself, don't be surprised at these statistics. Don't be surprised at all.
I think the fact that there's such a high proportion of black people being stopped when there isn't the same number committing the crimes is clear evidence of targeting of black people and clear evidence of race discrimination. Here in the UK, young black men are up to 32 times more likely to be stopped and searched than their white counterparts. And it's the same kind of figures, the same kind of disproportionate impact. We know that there's racial profiling in the USA and here in the UK, and this is clear evidence that this is about racial profiling. There's more black men in prison than there are in universities. So black people are more likely to be the victims of crime, but more likely to be serving time for crimes that they didn't commit. So there's something clearly wrong there.
Even American President Obama has had to admit that US police have been oppressive and objectionable. But who is to blame for US police racism? The public gave us their view.
I think it just goes back to the police being run by a lot of old white people, and these policemen who are committing a lot of this stuff, they've been on a police force for 20, 30 years. That's how they grew up. They haven't been trained properly, and they're wrong. I've lost a lot of respect for the police over the past 5 or 10 years or longer.
I think the president should back his police force, no matter what area he's addressing and talking about. I am a big fan of President Obama, but genuinely believe that there's police force out there every day giving their life to protecting society, and I think the President should take it upon himself to back them no matter what, unless it's irrefutable evidence.
I mean, everyone. The police, policemen, the institutions, the governments, everyone. Us, the citizens, yeah.
I think that we all are to blame. There's not just one person that we can point a finger at. It's all of us as a nation, or even in the world. It's everywhere. It's not even just in the U.S., where for some reason people of darker skin tones are like the untouchables. And I can't just say, I can't point my finger at Obama, I can't point my finger at the police department. It's all of us. You know, we all play a role in this unfortunate circumstance.
I want, my first reaction would be, well, it's the government and the people that in the individual states that govern the police departments. But I don't know if I really have an answer for that, and I don't know. I think I'd have to think about that for a while, but it exists. That's, why is one thing, how we fix it, I think we should start thinking about that.
The fact that the US President himself has admitted the unacceptable behaviour of his own police force is notable. But who is to blame for this serious state of affairs? We gave the last word to our experts.
The police are what is known as the repressive state apparatus. The police uphold the law as it stands. They interpret it as they see. If the police knew that they face prosecution every time they killed a black person, then maybe they wouldn't kill so many black people. But if they know that they can kill a black person on camera and get away with it, then it sends out the signal across America, don't worry, you can kill black people. Black life isn't worth anything.
The police are obviously to blame, but the police being racist is being allowed. So there has to be a system in place that addresses that, and the state and the government are responsible for addressing that. But I also think the judicial system play a part, because if they let police officers off every time when they do commit these crimes, and they are crimes if they're murdering people in the way that they are, then there's a problem there. So I think there needs to be a whole overhaul of the judicial system. But actually, we don't just want to hear politicians like Obama talking about it being a problem. They need to put their words into action and start doing something to address the issues and change it. But issues of systemic racism, institutional racism, are not going to change overnight. It's going to take a big effort and a collective effort and determination to resolve that matter, and that's going to take some time and some effort.
So we know that the US police arrest black Americans 45 times more frequently than white people, with many claiming this is clear evidence of racial prejudice. We've also seen the growth of a mass movement to overthrow racism and police brutality. Yet the US capitalist and imperialist system seems historically rooted in racial discrimination. Until that is addressed, there seems little hope of progress. The starting point must surely be the raising of awareness and the driving home of one message, that policing must be about justice, not the colour of your skin.